Hello, I'm Anthony Treyas from strongmancoaching.com and your host for the New Man Health Summit. I'm excited for yet another guest speaker who will be sharing here with us today for the New Man Health Summit. The theme is empowering men to thrive, and that's exactly what has been happening through these messages that we've been getting from many of the different speakers that have shared so far. And I'm very excited really to be bringing you a different perspective from our guest today, who has been in the executive world, has achieved great success, and has worked with executives and understands their issues of time management and really making the time and the effort into looking at their health and fitness from a whole nother different angle. So I'm really excited to be bringing you on here today is Jeff, and I'm excited. So welcome, Jeff. How are you today?
Hey, Anthony. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, great. First off, Jeff, I want to thank you for willing to be participating in the New Man Health Summit and being able to reach more men and to pass on this information that we begin to share a new story with men to empower them to thrive. And it's not just about surviving, and it's about thriving. And it's great to meet you and to have you here today. Would you take a minute to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name's Jeff. I'm an executive health coach, and I coach mostly online, which is why I'm excited to do the summit with you here today, Anthony. And I'm happy to talk about who I help and give them some practical tips.
Excellent. So, Jeff, you come from the executive world. You've been there, you've done it, you know what it's like, you've been in the boardrooms, you know these men are very driven, and yourself is driven. Why is success a hazard to men's health?
You know, I like to call it the success paradox, Anthony. The irony of work is the better you are at it, the more you get. And so every successful executive will know that they're working harder. And, you know, I always like to say, you know, you're making less money when you divide the extra hours by the extra pay. Yes. Some people also call it the health for wealth trap. You know, we kind of give up our health and making wealth, and, you know, we make more money, which then we want to, you know, continue to do. So it's fine. Like what I kind of notice is between 20 and 40, it works quite well. You know, we have a lot of energy, our career is rising, but somewhere around 43 to 45, you know, 5 things happen to us that change the game. So let me go over them. You know, generally executives get married. They may get a house, especially if they have kids, to raise them, and they move to the suburbs, which means their commute goes up. They've often been promoted twice. You know, that's a big incentive to buy the house. They feel like, okay, I can afford to do this now. Yes. Now is the right time. So they've taken on a lot at the family level. They've taken on a couple of promotions at work, and almost unnoticed, they're not going to the gym anymore. And that sport they used to do in college, they're not doing either. So their free health pass from 20 to 40 works quite well. Suddenly you're 43 and you wake up and you're like, what happened? Well, those 5 things happened.
Yes.
And that was certainly my story. I mean, I've been a senior vice president of a Fortune 500 company out of Texas. You know, we rolled out the wireless data networks across the US and Europe. I got married, bought a house, had kids. I moved to Silicon Valley, became an entrepreneur, had a bit of success. I managed to IPO a tech company for $500 million. But it cost me dearly. Oh boy. You know, I was on the road 3 weeks of the month. I could wake up at 8 a.m. and be in Japan that evening. I was literally all over the world, and I'd come home and I'd never be sure if my key was going to go in the front door or if my family moved or had kicked me out. And that was a factor. My kids are growing up without me. It was a lot of stress and strain on my wife to raise the kids as I sort of attended to the business. We wound up getting divorced. And then from a health and fitness perspective, I woke up one day, I was 55 pounds overweight, and I had just slept like 10 hours, Anthony. And I woke up first thing in the morning and I was exhausted. And I'm like, this has to change. I can't be waking up tired to start my day. So that's kind of a little background on sort of general what happens to executives and what happened to me.
Yeah. So, Jeff, why do executives struggle with their health? They're very driven and they're successful. And you mentioned, we do have this amount of energy in our 20s and 30s, and any man over 40 can definitely relate to the differences of energy level. Why do you think executives, do not take care of their health and their well-being during and make it a priority in their life?
There's actually a very positive reason that gets overlooked. So I want to point this out first. A lot of men like what they do, and they're very good at what they do. I'll use my brother as an example. I've got a younger brother. He's kind of neglecting his health, but he enjoys his business. It's a multi-million-dollar business. He's quite good at it. He's having a lot of fun. Financially, it's the best use of his time, as he likes to point out to me. But it's a good reason. Like he likes work, right? Yeah. So let's not overlook that. Having said that, on the plus side, I do run into what I call executive BS. So when I talk to executives, here's the excuses I hear in kind of order. Number one, I have no time. Number one by far.
Yes.
Number two, my schedule is unpredictable. As executives, we have customers, we have production problems, we have competitors doing things. It's true. Your schedule is less fixed as you go higher up the ladder. Reason number three, for whatever reason, a lot of executives I talk to don't like the gym. Maybe they were nerds in high school. I think a lot of it's just the time factor of driving to the gym, getting showered. It's kind of inefficient because they do have equipment at home. And a lot of them travel. It's okay to get your mojo and your routine at home with your fridge in your home gym. But, when you're up at 4 a.m. to get a flight across the country and you're coming back home past midnight, your routine takes a hit. So that's kind of what's working against you. Now, I will point out for CEOs that don't have that problem. So guys go, well, these are my excuses, Anthony. Time, I hate the gym, I travel. Well, what about Richard Branson? He's 60, he kite surfs, he looks great. He runs a multi-billion-dollar empire, and he works out. What about Elon Musk? He's running Tesla. He's a very busy man. He likes to swim and play tennis. Fitness is important to him. Tim Cook's running Apple. He's a big biking enthusiast in Silicon Valley, and he's big into his nutrition. Larry Ellison, if some people have dealt with Oracle, again, a very prominent, successful businessman. And I always like to point out, if these 4 guys can do it, what's your excuse again? Because they're running bigger companies than you are, and somehow they manage. But I think there is a blind spot I want to talk about, Anthony. Leadership comes with a lot of stress. It's the price we pay. Only of all doctor-related visits are due to stress in some form or another, stress-related illness. So it really is the root of a lot of the reason we wind up at the doctors. Now, I said 75 to 90%. A big chunk of that is interpersonal stress. It could be family stress because you're working too much. It could be employee stress or issues at work. So, a lot of our stress comes from the people around us. Again, as executives, we deal with problems. And this is the general population statistic. 43% of adults suffer from some form of stress eating. I can tell you for a fact that number is double with executives. Easily 85 to 90% of my guys stress eat. There's some psychological and physiological reasons for it. Cortisol being one of them. Our hormones get out of whack. We're not sleeping well. We're not eating well. We're not exercising. So stress is a real part of the executive role that just comes with the job. Not much you can do about it. It's not that you can meditate it away or tell your customers to be nicer. It's just a fact of being an executive. I think too, and I'd be interested in your background with the military, but sometimes I call it the West Point model problem. A lot of executives I've asked them those questions. I say, what are your values? They'll always say the mission, my team. And I'm like, well, where are you? Oh, I come after that, right? So their mental model is, make a quarter, you know, make sure my team is happy. And they kind of put themselves third. And of course, there's no time left over for third place. So
Yes.
the time to take care of themselves gets lost. And I say, well, look, you know, when the business is in trouble, when the plane is going through some turbulence and the oxygen masks go down, you got to put yours on first. You know, if you don't take care of yourself, how can you take care of the people you care about? So, you know, I think a lot of this, I'm not blaming West Point explicitly, but I think we put the mission and the team often ahead of our health. And some of it's just being men. You know, we don't like to be weak in front of our rivals. We wear our exhaustion as a badge of honor. And we're also embarrassed. You know, my dad had a heart attack and he was too embarrassed to let my mom drive him to the hospital. He survived, but I'll never forget, like, my mom couldn't drive him because he didn't want to put her through all the trouble. So, you know, you ask me what's hard for men, you know, I would cite those factors.
Okay. Well, Jeff, you have a different perspective on health and fitness. You mentioned being able to, you really don't have to delegate or schedule in something to do every single day when it comes to your fitness. And so how is your approach to health and fitness different?
What I noticed, Anthony, is that fitness starts in the head. I like to say the body is a meat robot. The body will do what you tell it. You give it certain inputs, whether it's food or exercise, and you'll get certain predictable results. So the problem is rarely the body. Unless your doctor gives me a note with a clinically diagnosed disease or pathology, the problem is probably in your head. And so let me give you some examples. You know, the Navy SEALs love to say this. You know, when you're ready to quit, when your mind is ready to quit, your body's only at 40% of its capacity. And if you talk to bodybuilders, they say the same thing. When you can't lift that weight, you're probably lifting 40% of what you're capable of. And why? Is your mind is trying to protect you. It's trying to stop you from injuring yourself, right? So, you know, the mind is the weak link. So what I do different in my practice is I really focus on the mental aspect. I'm certified in health psychology. And what that means is I'll analyze executives, and we kind of all have a pattern that we adopt somewhere around 20 or 22. When we leave home and our parents aren't sending us to the doctor and the dentist, and we're not under our parents' health insurance, and we leave school, we get to make our own decisions. And we'll snap into one of 10 predictable patterns and attitudes towards how we make our health and fitness decisions. So I'll talk about one of the tips at the end and one of my gifts of how guys can figure out what their pattern is. But it's things like, are you independent in your health decisions? Are you family driven? Are you more traditional? Are you more naturalist? Like, how do you put your value on healthcare? How do you think about it? Another thing I noticed with executives, they have very good health insurance. Some of them are on executive health plans, Anthony. This creates what I call moral hazard. You know, the better your insurance, sometimes the worst guys take care of themselves. There was an interesting effect when Obamacare rolled out 8 years ago. In the state of Oregon, they used a lottery system because normally healthy people rush to take care of their health and sign up for good plans, and people that don't take care of their health don't sign up. Well, in Oregon, they mailed things out by, I think it was alphabetical. And so people got health care without any self-selection. And what they found out was the higher the level of healthcare, the worse the health. And the worse the healthcare, the more people took care of themselves. So I call this moral hazard. If we know that we're covered, maybe we take more liberties with our health. I also focus a bit on neuroplasticity and habit change. Health change is hard. Why? Well, we've got these patterns. We've had them since at least 2022. We've got these unconscious beliefs. And to get rid of them, our brain is wired to think a certain way. So we have to become conscious of that. We have to unwire it. To form a new habit, you have to repeat it maybe 100 times to remember to repeat it another 900 times. And at 1,000 times, the neurons start to sort of rewire together into a new pattern. So, you know, you're trying to undo dumb stuff and you're trying to form something that doesn't exist. That's why it's hard, is you're actually physically changing the structure of your brain. And we have stories. You know, I kind of like to say that people have stories. Maybe they say I have bad genetics.
Hmm.
I have bad genes. Well, the most recent research shows that your genotype is not your phenotype. That is, your genetic DNA is not the phenotype, how it expresses in your life. It's how you choose to tilt the playing field that'll make all the difference. A diet study that literally came out last week showed that the type of diet and the type of gene had absolutely no effect on the final result. So it may tilt the field 1 or 2% this way or that way, perhaps at most, but really we can't use it as the excuse not to change our health. Yes. Lastly, and this I kind of focus on quite a bit with executives, the main reason you want to do it is productivity. When you get to 43 and your energy starts to drop, there's a couple of reasons. You've lost a lot of muscle over the last 2 decades. You've gained obviously some fat, which takes energy to haul around. So when you're tired, everything is harder. That's when my guys start to notice, hey, I got to do something. I'm weaker, I'm fatter, and it's harder to be productive.
Yes.
So that's kind of one of the triggers. And then other triggers are respect, whether it's your kids, whether it's how society looks at you. Even at work, there was a study done that showed that fit leaders scored 61% in their performance evaluation high versus unfit people that scored 25%. And this literally adds up to hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of your career in pay difference. But it's not the money, it's the quality of your life too. Like, you can't enjoy your life if you're ill. So I actually did an exercise where I coached 8 executives on the same team all at once. And I wrote this up for Harvard. I did a case study on energy and productivity, and I can leave a link if you're interested. But these guys found this is true. They got more productive, and girl. They got more respect on the job. Their bonuses were tied to their productivity. Most of them actually commented on the quality of life outside of work. They had energy when they got home to play with their kids. So again, when you ask what I do different, I very much come at it from the mental aspect, Anthony.
Yeah. Well, I'm very glad that you brought that up, because oftentimes we don't really take in consideration our brain and how our behaviors, that the way we've been doing things for so long, is ingrained in the way we think. It's kind of the pattern that we've developed in ourselves, that if we want to change that pattern, we literally are needing to change and rewire our brain to go a different way than it normally is. And then oftentimes it's very easy to go right back to where we were before, because we're battling that pattern that we have in our life. And so it's very unique. And that's something that really many people don't understand, is they try. They're really putting in a lot of effort to make changes in their life. But oftentimes that's where I like to say where a lot of self-help books fail, is because here's this great information and that's useful. But another thing that's most important is that whenever things start getting tough, such as someone who's trying to change their diet or someone who's trying to add physical activity into their life, and it's something new to them, but they're really not enjoying it. And the minute that the first day they stop doing it becomes 2 days and becomes 3 days, and they just go right back to where they were before. So I'm really curious. You mentioned this before about 1 hour a week. Can you really lose fat and get fit in 1 hour a week?
You sure can. And before I go there, Anthony, I just wanted to touch on the thing you said. A lot of it is how we frame our thinking, just to finish up on the mental aspect. So most people are shocked when I tell them this. Statistically, you are the leading cause of your own death.
That's right.
Okay. So you've heard the saying, you're your own worst enemy. I'm not going to go into the math here, but when you look at the fact that people die of diabetes and cardiovascular disease, what's going to kill you are your decisions. It's not terrorism or car accidents or illness. You are your own worst enemy statistically, and I can prove it. So, when you think of it that way, it's more incentive to say, I'm digging my grave with a fork here. Maybe, I should change things. So let me talk to how you can change it. Because I think one of the fallacies, going back to the mental aspect and what you can do with an hour a week, all of us have this all or nothing kind of mentality. Well, to make changes, I'm going to have to be in the gym 20 hours a week, and I'm going to have to eat kale 9 times a day, and I'm going to have to become an ascetic monk and give up pleasure in life, right? So,
Yes.
we either inflate the cost, so it's so high, or we minimize the benefit. We say, oh, if I have a vitamin and go for walk the dog, it's too little. So, mentally we play games with ourselves. We turn it into Mount Everest, or we turn it into a pebble. But here's how you can use an hour. And I like to think of the ROI. So let me put it in executive terms. When you study knowledge workers, it's been found that after 55 hours of work a week, your productivity goes to zero. Now you can work 56, 57, 60, 65, 70, 75 hours, but after 55 hours, you're wasting your time. In fact, you could probably be hurting your business, more than helping it. So after 55 hours, you're not really being net positive productive. Take one of those useless hours reading emails at 2 a.m, okay, and invest it in your health. Okay, take 1 hour a week, put it in your health, and you will get 4 hours of productivity back. Richard Branson says so. I see it in my practice. Just by getting your energy back, that hour that you spend at work that's not productive, invest it in you and get back 4 hours. That's your 300% ROI. And the other question that people don't ask is, how much is enough? Again, nobody thinks, what's the minimum effective dose? We immediately think more is better. I have to, get the super gym membership and do too much. Well, an hour is plenty. Let me explain how. So here's your minimum effective dose. So nutrition, 42 minutes a week. So you generally eat 3 meals a day, 7 meals a week. That's 21. And every time you have a meal, I like to have people spend 1 minute looking at your food choices. How can I increase my protein? How can I increase my vegetables? How can I cut my white carbs? There's some very easy substitutions, upgrades, tricks you can play. And then I like them to take another minute in that meal and log what they ate. And there's some really great apps you can do on your phone. You can even take a picture of your meal and send it to me. But logging drives up the success rate like 500%. It just makes us conscious of what we're doing. Again, this takes 2 minutes a meal. There's a couple of other things we can do with shopping and recipes, but really it's 42 minutes a week when you add it all up. So there's 2/3 of your hour is just better nutrition, okay? 10 minutes a week on strength. Lean muscle mass is the leading factor in longevity. I don't know if people know this, the number one reason you wind up in a nursing home when you get older is you're too weak to get off the toilet. You have to go into assisted living because you just can't manage the bathroom. So muscle's important. And as guys, muscle's important just as part of being sort of a man. So I recommend 5 compound body exercises, 2 minutes each, once a week. These are on my website, by the way. Or you can find many, many alternatives out there, but a couple of squats, a couple of pushings and pulls, and you're done. And then the reason I use body weight is you can do it when you're traveling in your hotel room. You don't need a gym. You don't need equipment. You can do it waiting in line at Safeway to pay for your groceries. No excuses, right? So there's 10 minutes. The other 9 minutes we use on stamina. So the leading risk factor for cardiovascular mortality is your heart and lung efficiency. So we put 9 minutes into your cardio, generally 3 sets of perhaps 6 intense intervals of 3 minutes each. Gets you to 9 minutes. It could be running, it could be biking, it could be rowing. It can be anything you like to. So when you add that up, 42 plus 10 plus 9 gets you to 60 minutes a week.
Outstanding. That's very unique in how you explain that, and I appreciate the breakdown of those things. And I think for myself, and I hope for many, will watch this again and go through those figures and be aware of how it's time management, right? It's really looking at your time in a different in a different way. And once you begin to do that, you'll be aware of the foods that you eat, the time or the things that you do with your time, and how you can how it can begin to for you to look at things in a different way. And I know that may be hard for someone who's kind of never experienced that before, but I really strongly encourage for people to look at their foods, take a picture of it, see where they can make changes. You've given some good tips. And that leads me to my next point is what tips can you offer? Any additional tips that you can offer to listeners today to help them and improve their health and their fitness?
Yeah, sure, Anthony. I'd be happy to help out here. I mean, every business guy knows, every executive knows what gets measured gets done. You know, you have chartered accountants in your business. You have quarterly roll-ups. Mm-hmm. You know, you run the business in part by the numbers. Yes. So health and fitness is no different. You know, what gets measured gets done. The reason logging nutrition is important is you just make better choices. I don't change anyone's diet. I don't change anyone's exercise. We just pay attention to it, and logging and measuring it seems to make a difference. Surprisingly, though, you know, I was quite shocked that apps and wearables, everyone thought that was going to solve that problem by having the exercise app on your smartphone or the Fitbit. They definitely help, but they don't really produce the change. But one thing I did notice is making a difference is kind of what we're doing here through the webinar today and talking to each other over video. Everyone's got a smartphone or a laptop. Everyone's got some access somehow to some wireless data. So I'm heading up to the tip here, which is, you know, you can get support, you can get coaching, you can get information and transformation now easily online in your spare time, in the car, at the airport. You don't have to go meet a counselor at the office. You don't have to meet a trainer at the gym. You can assess online. You know, we have mastermind groups for business people. And the trend I'm seeing in virtual healthcare and virtual coaching is there's now mastermind groups for business people that are interested in sharing fitness tips and health tips. Certainly in my practice, guys are always exchanging information, and I put it out to my group when somebody figures out a little hack or trick at the airport or at the hotel. You know, we share it amongst ourselves. But coming back to what gets measured gets done. So here's my gift to your listeners today. I'm going to offer 5 free online assessments. If you could post the link, that would be awesome. Let me just run over briefly what they are. Absolutely. One is to assess your health readiness. You know, how ready are you to change? You think you're ready? Well, let's numerically grade it and see if you're really ready or there's something holding you back. Yes. We will actually assess your health pattern type. That's the second survey I offer, the quiz. So, you know, what's your health psychology? How do you make health decisions? Are you prone to seek out information? Are you prone to avoid it? Do you trust your doctor too little or too much? How do you make your health decisions? There are risk factors with that, and there are some pluses that you should know about. I do offer a stress survey based on the perceived stress score instrument. Most of my guys are well over 75%, as I mentioned earlier in our conversation, Anthony. You know, stress comes with the executive role, and it cuts into our time, it cuts into our health, it cuts into our hormones. So for me, it's important to assess that to see what we're dealing with, you know. But I would expect that most guys are going to score high on that. Yes. I do offer an audit of your food environment. We'll take a look at your fridge, we'll take a look at your kitchen and your pantry and just see what the situation is, and some tips on how to change that. It's difficult, especially in a family situation, for dad to eat healthy if the kids are eating unhealthy. Yes. I get it. I've been there myself. But it's good to look at that and figure out exactly where you stand. Yes. And lastly is social support. So logging is a very big thing that makes a big difference. And then our friends and the people that do or don't support us can make or break our success in becoming healthier and fitter. So I'd like to sort of audit your social circle. You may have heard the saying, Anthony, you are the 5 people you spend the most time with. Hopefully those people are supporting your journey. If they're not, there's some things we can do. But let's look at your social support and figure out, are the cards stacked for you or against you? You know, one of the things I love about your health summit is it's bringing people together that are interested in making changes and looking at this information. And that's a huge factor in your success. So again, I'll send you the link, and your listeners.
Have that link up.
Perfect.
With this video. So for those who are interested, that link is available in the section, the text section of this video. So
fantastic.
Yes. So Jeff, we're at the end of this time together. I do want to appreciate you. I love the aspect that you bring, your experience in working with your own experience and being in the executive world. You understand that, you see where people are struggling, and how you bring your statistics and the information that truly can help somebody make changes in their life. And so I really appreciate this different view and the experience that you have, and the experience that you've had in working with executive men in helping them to change their health and their fitness. Any last comments?
No, Anthony, I just want to say thank you. It was a pleasure talking with you, and I admire what you're doing and getting the word out. So I wish you every success.
Well, thank you. Well, once again, I want to thank you all for watching the New Man Health Summit. I wish you the best in becoming the man that you truly want to be. I encourage you to watch not only this video, but all the other videos multiple times, and allow this information to be absorbed and give you the opportunity to become aware of different options that are available for you, that you begin to be empowered yourself, and that you begin to become the best father, the best husband, the best man that you possibly can be and that you desire. So I'm Anthony Treyes, and I look forward to hearing your success stories. So thank you for watching, and may you have a wonderful day. Thank you.